Good morning and good afternoon. I guess maybe even good evening, depending upon where you are. Our session today, Revolutionizing Distribution and Manufacturing Profitability. Uh, my name is Dean Holmes, Product Marketing Manager here at Cavallo, and I'm coming to you from San Francisco for the folks that have been listening to us talk. I'm joined by Blake Minke. He's our lead product manager, and he's joining us from Cavallo's HQ in Grand Rapids, Michigan. A quick thank you to Acumatica as well as Darcy and the Acu-Connect team. And congratulations to Amy and Foy for taking over as Acu-Connect co-presidents. That was pretty exciting news to see on the chat today. I'm going to give a quick introduction to Cavallo for those of you who aren't familiar, and I'll start with our why. And it's pretty simple. Our entire purpose is to make our distribution and manufacturing customers more profitable, competitive, and valuable. That's it. That's our obsession. And that obsession began with a successful distributor building a solution that could help other distributors. 20 plus years ago, we began. And since then, we have served over 1,000 distributors and have helped them create over 100 million in value. We have a 92% retention rate with an NPS score of 95 while serving almost 22,000 users. Profitability is our passion. I mean, we have Stairway to Profit t-shirts. If that doesn't scream obsessed, I don't know what does. Feel free to reach out to anybody at Cavallo and ask if you could get a t-shirt. I'm sure they would be happy to send you one. Okay. We're so obsessed that our data scientists have developed unique and proprietary equations and algorithms specifically for understanding profitability at both the micro and macro levels. We call it the science of profit. Now, forgive me if I geek out a little bit. I mean, with my background, you can probably are not terribly surprised. But I'm going to walk you through a few equations that highlight the importance of understanding down to the line item what's happening inside each order. At Cavallo, we believe that the order is the lifeblood of your business, and understanding the gross margin of every order is where the journey to profitability begins. So within every order, for every line item, the price minus the cost times the quantity gives us the gross margin of each order. Now, the gross margin of the order feeds into your total gross margin. And when you multiply the gross margin per order times the number of orders times the number of customers, that feeds into your net profit when you subtract your costs like labor, warehousing, delivery, and all your other operating costs. Now, the reason I geeked out on you here was to highlight the connection between each individual order and your total net profitability, and how the smallest units of measurement, like price and cost of an individual line item, can have outsized impact on your profitability. Understanding where you are making or losing money requires mastering the profitability of every order. And that is what our data scientists, we call them profit scientists, are looking at every day. And that brings us to why we're here today. Much like the Beatles, we're here to talk about the profitability revolution. I'm pretty sure that's what they said. And why do we need a revolution? Well, it's a big crowded market. Just here domestically, there are roughly 330,000 distributors, contributing 11.7 trillion. That's a lot of competition. And the average mid-market distributor is making less than 5 cents per dollar of pre-tax profit. Now, I know none of you are average, especially since you're using Acumatica to run your business, so you may be making more than this, but what if you could make even more? And as I just showed you with the equations, understanding each and every data point in your ERP is required to truly understand where you're making or losing profits. And there are a lot of data points, lines per order, data fields, human touch points, number of orders per day, etc. It can quickly add up to over 1 billion data points a year, even for a small distributor. And for distributors who are going to make a difference, differentiate themselves and win in this market, they'll need to be focused on profitability. And there are a few keys to becoming a successful profit-centric distributor. A focus on data-driven profitability. As I walked through earlier, understanding your data is key. A focus on the right profitability metrics. Are you measuring those metrics that are key to your profitability, not just revenue, volume sold, etc.? And customer value segmentation. It's not just about who buys more or who brings in the most revenue. You need to understand the profitability of every one of your customers and their health. And then finally, in order to do anything with all of this, you're going to need the right technology that provides profit-focused recommendations and automation. Now, even if it's not ours. But for distributors and manufacturers who want to become more profitable, competitive, and valuable, Cavallo makes software to help you break out of the pack. Specifically today, we'll be showing you the ProfitMax platform. The ProfitMax platform helps distributors turn complex ERP data into clear, prioritized actions with no BI tools or data teams required. It's powered by our proprietary AI engine, Ava, who is your profitability navigator. And there are two main components we'll focus on today: margin intelligence, where Ava helps pinpoint margin leaks, maximize every transaction. And some of the tools that we utilize there are margin variance analysis. It helps you understand down to the penny where you're making or losing money. Profit indicators, which gives you that macro level of your organization. And what if, which allows you to model different scenarios and how they impact your profitability. We're also going to show you customer intelligence, where Ava helps you know your customers and protect your profits. That's done through customer ABC segmentation, where we automatically calculate the value of each customer. Customer segmentation, which gives you the ability to understand your profitability in relation to your customer segments like regions and verticals. And churn prediction, where Ava calculates the risk of losing a customer and how much margin is at risk if they do leave, based upon over 40 different data points. All right, that's enough of me. That's enough of me talking. Let's show you how this works. I'm going to hand this over to Blake so that he can show you how to revolutionize your profitability.
All right, thank you, Dean. We don't have a ton of time today, so I am going to try to be brief. Our application, as you can imagine, a product named Profit Max Platform, has quite a bit of profitability focused features. So we don't have enough time to talk through everything today, but this is our home screen here, and you can see that we have a number of margin and profit focused widgets, so then, some customers and items, etc. So today we're really just going to be focusing on this top line for what we're going to be talking about. To give a little context, you can select a time period. Right now, I'm just looking at last calendar year, and then you could select a comparison period. In this case, I'm just looking at the prior year. So we're looking at 2024 versus 2023. So if we start on the left over here, here's where you're getting that margin summary, which is that aggregate picture of, how much did I have in sales, how much did I have in cost of goods sold, and then subsequently, how much did I have in gross margin at the end. So you can see here I had $43 million in 2024, and then I had a little less. I'm sorry, a little less than that in 2023, for an overall variance of $137,900, meaning I made 137,000 more dollars in 2024 than 2023. If we go down here, you could see that my cost of goods sold went up by more than my sales went up. So in the end, year over year, I was still down about $777,000. So if we kind of go across to the right here, we have a margin trend widget, which just kind of plots that evolution over time. And then over here on the right is where we're going to spend a decent chunk of time, because margin variance analysis is something that is a cornerstone of our application. It's something that no one else is doing. This is something that our data scientists put a lot of work into. And what margin variance analysis does is it takes all of that sales line item data from 2023, it takes all of that sales line item data from 2024, and it directly compares them, and it draws out down to the penny all of the differences in your line items to build basically a report and an understanding of what the changes between those two periods of time were. So in the real world, what that actually breaks down as here is, you can see that we have a couple of reasons across the left here: price, cost, returns, volume. And what this is calling out is it's saying that in this case, my net impact for all of my price changes versus those two periods of time was minus almost $1 million. So what this is telling me is that I sold the same products at a lower unit price in 2024 than I did 2023, resulting in, again, overall being about $1 million down period over period. Cost is the same, but for cost, these were where costs went up on items that I sold 2023 versus 2024. Returns, what was the dollar value difference in returns between those two periods of time? Are my customers returning more or less? In this case, they're returning slightly more than they used to. And then volume here. What items did I sell more or less of? And what was that total financial impact there at the end? And if you look, all of these add up to that same number we see over here on the left in terms of the variance. And although this is showing us an aggregate, and that is a great place to start to kind of look at these figures, if we actually drill into margin variance analysis, we get to a deeper screen here that starts calling out actual uh, differences between the customers, the items, etc. here. So if we look at this section over here on the left, these were customers, specific customers that spent, that had the biggest drop in money that they spent with us between 2023 and 2024. And over here on the right, these were the customers that had the largest increase in spending period over period. And it does the same for items. What items did I sell less of profitability wise in 2024 versus 2023? And you can see that it breaks it down even by sales rep, customer class, item class. There's a lot of interesting information to dig into here. And we can actually take this even a step further and say, like right now, we're just looking at that big financial number difference between those two periods of time. And in this case, this Real Pro Sports was had the largest negative profit dollar difference between those two periods. But I can come up here and I can actually say, well, there was this almost $20,000 difference in returns period over period. So I can click on that and I can actually see what customers are returning way more product than they used to. What items are being returned more often than they used to? What sales reps are getting more of their things that they sold returned? And the same for customer class, etc. So these are all different lenses that you can look at those differences between those periods of time and really get down to those individual pieces where you could say, New Haven Fishing League, why are they returning so much product? Do I need to have a conversation with the sales rep? Did they get a bad shipment of something? And I can start tracking down these truly actionable pieces where I can go in and start improving those to improve the overall profitability of my business because I don't want them to return this much product going into 2025 or 26. Again, I can click here and go even deeper. And so here, and I now have every customer in my system that I can look through here. So not just the top five, which is really that previous page's focus is giving you that kind of medium level view. And now it's super granular, and I can cycle through all of the customers here or search for them, which gives you interesting ways to really dig in and understand those differences in margin and profitability period over period. You can also come in here and say, I just want to focus on the losses. Because one of the biggest things that is a mistake that people make is they look at their aggregate numbers and derive too much meaning around whether that thing is whether there's good or bad under the hood. Meaning, if your business is up, let's say 10% in profit year over year, like that's great. And that's certainly something you should celebrate. But if you didn't know that your Shopify business was drastically down and your Amazon business was drastically up, and that if you're just looking at the aggregate numbers, that may obfuscate some of those large negative things that are happening under the hood, where you do have these customers or items or sales territories that are outsized, having negative things happen within them that you can go address to increase your profitability even more because those aggregate numbers do not tell the full story. So that's margin variance analysis here. And now we're going to go talk about another really cool feature, which is profit indicators. Profit indicators allows you to see your business and your profitability through even another lens, which is breaking down those little metrics from the things that you sold in your documents. So, how many unique customers did I have in each period? What was the average number of orders per customer? The average lines per order? What was the average discount per line, period versus period? Or the average margin per line? Are those trending up or are they trending down? And taking the things that you can glean from those underlying facts of maybe you're coming in here and your profitability is as a company is going down and you're looking at these numbers and the system doesn't have any discounts but it's just a demo system, but you can imagine that if you come in here and you look at this and your profits are down but your discounts are up, like there are real world changes that you could be making and pulling from these small data points to again like coaching people on what is the right amount to discount, or who are the right people to discount to, etc.
Blake, we're under 5 minutes. Just FYI, I wanted to give you a time
Okay,
check
thank you.
there.
Okay, so getting into what if here, what if is a very cool feature that basically allows you to come in and using some of those same data points from before, those profit indicators, you can come in and you can modify and say, well, what if I were to lose 5% of my customers? How does that impact my overall profitability? And in this case, it would drop about 1 million. But you could also come in here and say, okay, well, I'm expecting to raise my prices. And I expect, again, I might lose a few customers because I'm raising my prices. But if I raise my prices by 10% here, and I expect to lose 5% of my customers, then what total impact on my profitability does that have? And in this case, you could see it's positive, almost $3 million. So this calculator really allows you to drive in and modify some of these profit indicators to say, if I made this change, or if I discount more or less, or etc., how is that really going to impact my profitability? And this is, of course, a projection based on your historical norms. So moving on for there, I want to make sure that we hit on the customer dashboard here. So two very cool features: ABCD segmentation and churn prediction. ABCD segmentation is this is a pretty common concept that allows you to basically say, to assign a grade essentially to your customers based on their historical profit contribution to your business. So your A customers are your best customers, your D customers are your worst customers, and this is a great lens to look at your customers through pretty much any interaction that you have, because you're able to very quickly understand their historical profit impact on your business. If they are an A customer, you should be doing everything to please them. They should be where you should be allocating a lot of your resources, because losing an A customer is something that can be financially detrimental to your business. These are the most profitable customers you have. So making sure that you understand who your customers are, and if you have a C customer asking for a big discount, maybe that's an immediate thing to say, okay, well, we really need to consider this because historically, maybe they weren't profitable enough to warrant that kind of discount. Again, making those small decisions to increase profitability. Churn prediction here on the right. This is the last big thing that we want to talk about here. And churn prediction is one of the big data sciencey things that we added that really goes through all of your customers, and it assigns a risk score for you losing that customer based on changes in their behavior. So they're buying less from you, they're spending less with you, and taking these recency, these frequency, these monetary contribution factors, builds a model and then assigns those risk scores to your customers. So now when you're making a call list, or your sales reps are coming in here and they need to make informed decisions about like where they're spending their time, like this Summit Athletic Supplies, this is a customer that is at high risk of churning, and they are an A customer. If you have an A customer, someone who is in the top 10% of all of your profitable customers, and they're at a high risk of churning, this is where you should be allocating resources. Should you have a success team dedicated to these customers? Should you be tasking sales reps, etc., to work specifically on making sure that these customers stay with you because they are so historically valuable to your business? All right, Dean, I think that's it for me.
All right. Great timing. I'm going to share my screen. You're welcome to stop yours if you'd like. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. We'll wrap things up. We did want to extend an offer of a $150 Starbucks card for you to sign up if you attend a demo. The demo does need to be done and scheduled by October 10th, and it's limited to one gift card per company. On behalf of Cavallo, I'd like to say thank you again to Acumatica and the whole team at Acu-Connect, including our moderator, Ashley. Thank you, Ashley. Have a great rest of your conference, and I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. Dennis, Bill, we'll connect, and we'll have our folks chat with you about sort of those different pieces and parts that you wanted to talk about around how we figure out margin. So I think with that we are done.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you, everybody.